Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which will focus on 5 essentials to improving the project closeout process for facilities. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ann Cosgrove, the Editor-in-Chief of Facility Executive Magazine, and this webinar today is presented by Ark Document Solutions. So before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items with you. Please note the control panel that's on your screen. This is where you can submit questions via the question box in that panel. You can send your questions in for the speaker at any time during his presentation, and he will address them after the presentation. Also, please note the orange arrow on the left side of your control panel. Clicking on that will either expand or collapse the panel, so you want to be sure that's expanded so you can access the question box. If at any time you experience a technical difficulty, please send a message to us in that question section as well, and someone will address you privately right away. Also, if you're interested in continuing education credits today, please note you'll receive a certificate of attendance in the email from Facility Executive after this webinar, and you can report that to your association for continuing education credits. So let's turn to today's discussion. The four items on the agenda here is the changing role of facilities managers, the evolution of the Closeout Package, making the Closeout Package actionable for facility management teams, and then we'll round up with the 5 requirements for success on this topic. So I'd also like to introduce your speaker, David Trask, and he's with Ark Document Solutions. So David is National Director of Facilities Solutions for Ark, and he's a presenter at numerous facilities associations and conferences across the United States and Canada, with a focus on helping organizations, hospitals, universities, and school districts better manage their information, be more productive, and hence reduce risks. So with over a decade of experience in the construction and built environment, he shares best practices for leveraging innovative technology that drives efficiency. And David is a member of the IFMA Education Committee as well. So we're really looking forward to hearing from him today and his insights. So welcome, David.
Hey, thank you so much for the intro, and welcome everyone. As Ann mentioned, this deck will be available to everybody who attended, and we'll send that out to all. But what we're going to talk about today is the changing role of facilities managers as it's evolved. So let's take a look at it here. So traditionally focused on executing maintenance tasks. So again, think about the primary role that you've had in the past. Your historical stuff was, we go out and fix stuff that breaks. So in this case, whether it's equipment or I've got a pipe burst or I've got an electrical issue, whatever, that was the traditional role. But that's evolved. The new world includes emergency response. So in addition to the regular maintenance, you have to respond when something goes sideways. So something happens, whether it's a catastrophic event, whether it's a fire, whether it's, God forbid, active shooter. But facilities leaders are key players in mitigating these types of risks. And all of that is involving owners, occupants, contractors, visitors to your facilities. So let's take a look at this even further. So think about a traditional incident. So on average, industry stats show that on average, a catastrophe is going to happen every 2 years. Now that could be water, like you see here, or it could be an active shooter, or some kind of security event that's happening at your facility. But also there are those catastrophic events. So think about all the stuff that's happened recently with the fires out the West Coast, flooding all over the Midwest recently, hurricane season, also the active shooter events. These all impact our facilities every single year. So think about how that response, how that catastrophe has affected you in your past. So let's go through a couple of questions here. So in an emergency situation, does your team have instant access to the building and emergency information? So give us your feedback.
Thank you, David. Yes, and hi, this is Ann again, and I will direct our listeners to the poll on the screen. Please select one of the following, and we will wait a moment to get to critical mass here, and then we'll show you the results. See what everyone is the situations of our attendees today. So in an emergency situation, does your team have access to building and emergency information in under 60 seconds? Let us know from those choices. Yes, the most updated. Yes, a lot is outdated. No, or you're not sure. We'll go ahead and put the results on the screen. And you see that there. Let's see. So David, yeah, let's see, 40% yes to the most updated info. And that was followed evenly, 21% and 21% no or not sure. And the last result there was 18% yes, but a lot is outdated. So thank you, everyone. And back to you, David. Thanks.
Great. So again, but those are great results, and those are kind of what I expected. The challenge is, do I have access to that inside of 60 seconds? Because again, when you're in an emergency situation, you're not thinking straight. So having instant access to all of that information for your building in an emergency is critical. So let's talk about what that can look like here too, and what it traditionally is. So take a look at the picture on the left. It's a plan room. Okay, you've got all these different rolls of plans. I've walked into plan rooms in the past where it looked like a tornado went through there. Papers all over the place. And then you've got the other option of network access. So you've got stuff on a shared drive. Well, in most cases, the stuff that's on a shared drive is no more easy to find than the stuff in that plan room. It's not organized correctly. So how do I access all of that stuff? And the most important thing I want to focus in on that middle picture there is somebody sitting in front of a terminal, somebody sitting at a desk in front of a desk, okay? Can you access your information on your phone? If you can access your information on your phone, I challenge you, even the folks who said that they could get it within 60 seconds, how can you get it when you have to go back to a plan room or I have to go back to a terminal? Why can't you just grab your phone? It should be on your phone. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has a smartphone these days. My 11-year-old daughter has one. My 70-year-old father has one. I have two, for goodness sakes. Everybody has a smartphone, and we use them every single day in our lives, every day. Why can't you access all the information? So again, where we're talking here is where this scenario fails in an emergency is, great, now I've got to run back to a plan room here and try and figure out where the most recent plans are, okay? Or I got to run back to a computer. I got to go unlock my office. Now keep in mind, you got to do this on the fly, fast. Well, what if you're not at your office? What if you're at another building? You're clear across campus. You got to run back there and grab and log in. Come on. What's in your pocket here? A phone. Pull your phone out of your pocket and access everything for your building. That's what you should be doing. You should be able to access all of it from an app on your phone. And that's what we're talking about here. So let's talk about a real world recent event here where that wasn't the case. So last year there was a pipe burst in a large public library down in the Southwest US. So facility staff didn't know where the shutoff was located. They just didn't know. The fire department didn't know where the shutoff was located. It took 3 hours to find and turn that turn that water off. Think about that, 3 hours. I kind of look at water incidents like a gas pump, okay? The longer that water's running, it's just money, spinning, spinning, spinning. So the longer it runs, the more money it costs you. Think about that. Well, here's the results of this incident. The fire chiefs and facilities directors both got fired. They're gone. Okay, because they couldn't find a shutoff, for goodness sakes. They got fired because it took them 3 hours to try and track that stuff down. Here's the bigger thing. $10 million in damage in 3 hours. Think about, would it have cost them, I don't know, a tenth of that if they could have shut it off in 5 minutes? Okay, think about that impact. The longer water runs, the more it costs you. So again, you got to be able to respond. And why couldn't they access this on their phone? They should have been able to pull this up on their phone and make that reaction and react quickly. So we talked about the changing role of facilities and the importance of mobile access in times of an emergency. Well, let's bring it back to the closeout process here. So typically, this is what you see is a plan room like this. This is one of the photos I actually took. It's a mess. You've got plans on the table to the left there. You've got boxes. You've got stuff stuck in cubbies there. They have some stick files off to the right there. That's normal. So, but statistics, it's a challenge here. Is this right here is a mix of what you traditionally will see. You'll see stuff on the left and you'll see stuff in the middle here, digital. Well, where do I go to find the most recent stuff? Is it in the plan room? Is it online? Who can access to it? Is it on my share drive? Who accesses it? Who knows where those plans are? Ask yourself this: how many times have you gone into the plan room and somebody pulled a set of drawings and never put them back? Or you open up your share drive, click on that folder for that project, and the folder's empty. That happens all the time. Or how many times are you having to call that one guy or gal on your team who's been there for over 30 years to ask them which projects touch the room that you got to go and work on? That's normal. There's a better way, though. Again, a better way. And then here's the other challenge. Think about the closeout packages that you get at the end of all your new projects. Okay? You get a pile of plans, you get a CD or a thumb drive. Well, every project adds to this pile. Think about it. If you're still asking for 2 full-size sets, 3 half-size sets, and a bunch of binders, and then you get a little thumb drive or you get a CD tucked in the pocket of that binder, you're just adding to the pile. There's a better way. You need to start asking for a digital closeout. You need to start asking for your stuff to come in a format that you can actually use the minute it's handed to you. Cannot stress that enough. You need to be able to have a tool that you can use the day they hand it to you. And then ask yourself, how long is it taking to get that closeout at the end anyway? 6 months, 3 months, a year? I hear it all over the board. It's months, sometimes over a year. One of the hospitals that I've met with has been waiting over a year and a half to get the full closeout. And then they know it's not right because they've changed stuff since they've been operating the building for over a year. Think about that. How are you reflecting all those changes too that you're making before you get that closeout? But here's the stat. 50% of facilities info is currently stored digitally, which means half of it is not. Think about that. Less than 50% of it is stored digitally. That's a mess. That's a problem. Let's go to our next one here. So it should be digital here, but at a minimum, every closeout package should be digital and should be complete. You shouldn't be missing stuff. There shouldn't be holes in what you get. So we're often asked for a template. Well, here's an idea of a template here on what should be included in that closeout package. So, and you can feel free to use this one. And we're going to, again, share the slide deck out at the end so you'll have some of this information. But this is what you should start with. This is a baseline that you should look at the minimum. Ask for everything that you're seeing here. And it should be complete, no gaps. Okay? So we're going to have to do another poll here. Ann, go take her away.
Yes, great, thank you. So who is responsible for providing mobile access to closeout documents at your organization? Is it the general contractor? Is it the facility manager and the facility management team? The IT department? No one designated, or are you not sure? So let us know how it's working in your organization, how that process is working. We will show the results in momentarily.
Great.
Let's see. Okay, so let's see who's responsible for providing mobile access to these closeout documents in our audience. The facility manager, 27%, so it's about a quarter, a little more. Good to hear. General contractor, 17%. IT at 6%. No one. I'll take those no one designated. That's about a quarter as well. And then not sure, about 22%. So thanks again, David, and thank you everyone for voting and sharing your insights there.
Great. Okay, again, it's who's responsible for providing that information. Well, let's take a look at something here. So the general contractor, well, they own the closeout package, but they're only going to give you what you ask for. Okay, and I cannot stress that enough. They're going to give you what you ask for. If you ask for 3 full-size sets, 2 half-size sets, a bunch of binders, and a thumb drive, that's what you're going to get. They're not going to give you a whole bunch more extra stuff. That's what you're going to get. So you have to change what you're asking for in your closeout requirements. So don't just copy and paste them from a previous project. Starts with you. When you're going out for bid, include what you want at the end of your project. And we'll take a look at what that can look like here in a little while. But again, you've got to own this yourself. So the facilities manager owns the mobile access to the closeout. Okay. Think about how many times you get that CD at the end of a project. Now what happens? Where does it go? Think about how many times you get a thumb drive at the end of that project, or they email you over a link to download that stuff. What happens? You own it. You own it. You have to take ownership of that so that your team, not just you, but your team can now access all of that critical information so that you can manage your building. You can do your job. Okay. Think about the last time that you went digging for stuff and you just couldn't find it, or think about that delay that it's taking in getting those closeout docs at the end of a project. Own that. Own it. Get that stuff in. Get it in the hands of your team so that they can make the right decisions instead of some wrong decisions down the road here. So why does the facilities team own this? Well, let's take a look here. The GC doesn't work for you. They don't work for you. They're contracted by you, but they don't work for you. They're not your employee. So at best, they could offer one closeout. They're going to give you exactly what you asked for. Ask for something different. So what about everything that you're getting piecemeal right now? No. Give them some templated information that this is what I'm asking for. This is what you have to deliver. Then you're going to get a tool that you can actually use. So, facilities managers own the responsibility for a rapid response to any situation. We talked about some emergency situations, but just the day-to-day situations that happen all the time. So think about the last time your team ran out in the field and they were trying to fix something, and how many times they go back and forth from the plan room, from the share drive. They're running all over the place. If you're a city, you're running all across town. You got to worry about traffic. You got to, you're on a campus. You got to worry about, can I get access in there? Because students are in there, whatever the case may be. Think about those situations where you're standing out on site and you never have to run back and forth. You've got to own it. You have to put tools in place and ask for tools that your team can now use. So you should also partner with IT for help here, but don't expect IT to lead this charge, okay? IT has got their hands in a lot of different pools within your organization, but they're also going to look for things that can help you too. But you want to get some IT buy-off here, but at the same time, again, you own it. It's your responsibility to really put the best tools. Think of it like a wrench. You want to put the best wrench in your team's hands so they can do their job not only faster, more efficiently, but done right, okay? Not having to second guess, is this the right stuff? So let's talk about the 5 requirements for success here. So to be successful in our roles, we need to evolve how we interact with information. So it's not just about, can I get it? Or certain folks within my group can get it. No, everybody should be able to access the information to do their jobs fast. So again, remember when I was talking earlier about, we all have a cell phone. We all know how to use a cell phone. Nobody had to teach us how to use a cell phone, okay, or a smartphone. We all know how to use apps. It's got to be easy. So accessing information should be easy. Couple of pushes of a button, couple of taps of your finger, swipes. You should be able to access the information that way. Instead of, I would give an example. I was in a meeting with a client yesterday, and the guy was using keystrokes on his laptop to access information, and he was using all these really high 3 or 4 keystrokes to get to certain things. He was doing it over and over and over again. And I looked at him and I said, the guy who's in the field is not going to do what you just did. You just showed me that it took you 15 keystrokes in certain patterns. I had to push, control, shift, whatever, to get to whatever the information was. And he's got 15 different programs open. The guy in the field is not going to do that. He can't do that. On average, half of a facility staff is within 10 years of retirement. Are they tech savvy? No, it's got to be easy. But like I said, everybody can use a phone. So you want to make sure that the how you interact with that information has to evolve. It has to be simple. So let's take a look at this right here. I guarantee you that most of you have used at least one of these apps this week. So think about that. I'll give you a couple examples where I use these apps. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, but I used Uber to get home last night. I flew on Southwest yesterday. I watch Netflix movies all the time. Everybody uses these kinds of apps. Okay, I use Google Maps all the time. I'm logistically challenged trying to navigate my way around town. But that's just it. Nobody had to teach me how to use any of these things. Nobody did. So I guess you can safely say that we use an app for everything. We use apps all the time. Yeah, I mean, do you believe that? I mean, think about the apps that you guys have used today. Everybody uses apps. We use them every single day. So when a situation comes up where you've got something in your building, your phone's in your pocket, your laptop's not in your pocket, your plan room's not in your pocket, but it could be. Why not? Think about that. Why can't I access all of my building information just like any other app I use today on my phone, on my mobile device? There's a better way. So let's take a look at these here. So in the past, the photo on the left is where we traditionally, we were all growing up, we all went to libraries. We all grabbed information from a library. So it was all in paper. Well, and now even still, a lot of it's still in binders or plan rooms, or it's in people's heads, for goodness sakes. Well, think about Google. Look in the middle there. We all do Google searches. I do hundreds and hundreds of Google searches. Okay, every month, every week, I'm always on Google looking for stuff. But today everybody is doing stuff on their phone. You can get anything, anytime, anywhere on your phone. It exists. But you've got to think differently. You got to change your processes internally to know that, it's not just a matter of going into your plan room, like the photo on the left, or grabbing binders off the shelf. And how many times did I, run back and forth? 20 minutes each way, half hour each way? Oh gosh, I got caught up in traffic. It was an hour to get back to the plan room. Or I went back and grabbed my laptop, okay, or I sat down at my desktop computer and I'm doing the hunt and peck, just, with my fingers, just tapping on something, trying to find stuff. Then I go out in the field and realize, oh shoot, I didn't grab the right stuff. It's all on my phone. That's the point here. Should be on your phone. Everything should be on your phone. It's simple. Goodness, we all use apps. So let's talk about this here too. So accessing the information in the past here, again, it's a dungeon. It's your plan room. It's a train wreck. I've got folks that I've met with in the past that said we're not allowed to send more than one person, or we have to send more than one person into the plan room one time. You're not allowed to go in there by yourself because something might fall on them. Or it's in this remote warehouse where they don't know what the heck's in there. I've seen rats, dead rats, and live rats, and all kinds of vermin inside of a plan room that's tucked away in a basement somewhere. It happens. Also, network access. Who has access to it? Is it protected? Is it password protected? Does the new guy on your team have the same access to do the same job as the guy who's been on your team for 30 years? Does he know what folder to go in? Does she know what drive it's on? Does she know what folder it's in? And when is the last time you went into something again and it was just gone? Somebody deleted it by accident. That's the problem. The two pictures on the left are the problem. Cloud access is on the right, on your phone. Everybody has a phone. You should be able to access this stuff, whether you're in the field, whether you're in your office. Pull your phone out of your pocket and get whatever the heck it is that you need to do your job. Again, look at this as a tool. This is a tool in your toolbox. The tool's in your pocket right now. It's in your pocket right now. And if you can't access all of your building information on your phone, that's a problem. That's not efficient. You can't access your stuff. What we're talking about is getting access to the stuff when the heck you need it. Think about the last time you got frustrated, went into your plan room, and we're trying to dig around for stuff. I was talking to a vice president of facilities about a week and a half ago down in San Diego, and he said he spent 4 hours himself in the plan room and finally threw his hands in the air and called 2 other guys. Let's fast forward now. 2 more days went by before they could find anything, because even the guys who he thought could find it couldn't find it either. That's a problem. Everybody should be able to access your stuff. Everybody should be able to access the stuff they need to do their job. If they can't, that's not efficient. Network access, same thing. Same exact problem. It's a different medium. Paper, digital right there on a plan, on a share drive. What if the power's out? Okay. What if your Wi-Fi is down? Can you access it? It's on your share drive. Can you access it? Your phone's up. You can access it. Couple of pushes of your finger or taps of your finger, swipes of your finger, and you're there. So let's talk about, again, the past for sharing information. So sharing information in the past is handing drawings. You know, how many times did you, during a project or during anything that you're doing, you had to go make copies of something and distribute that to the field? Or when's the last time you went and grabbed into your plan room, grabbed a set of plans, threw them on a copier, or made a copy of them on your plotter, printed it out, and you're out in the field with a drawing? Happens all the time. Still happens. Okay? But that's the past. Well, even as, you know, recently as a few years, again, you're getting thumb drives. You're getting a CD. Well, where do those go? You know, do you lose the CD, or is it on Bob's desk? Or is it, you know, did it disappear, walked out? You lent it to a contractor, a subcontractor that worked for you. The HVAC guy came in. I handed him a CD and he forgot to give it back. Now it's gone. That happens all the time. Well, today, though, instant distribution to first responders, vendors, contact lists, also all of your team. You should be able to do stuff live, share information, get it out in the field, get it in the hands of the folks that need to respond. So think about it from the perspective of, you know, you've got something, you're at one building, or one of your leads is at one building, your lead plumber's over clear across campus, and something's going wonky on the other side of campus. He should be able to open that information up and text it to the person who's on site. On site, a plan marked up, show them where something is on site. If you can't do that, that's a problem. That's a gap in your systems. That's a gap in your processes. Again, it should be easy and accessed on your phone. So let's talk about some of the formats. Okay, the past, again, we talked about this paper. Now it's a mix of, in most cases, it's a mix of digital and paper. So you still get some paper docs, and you still get some stuff on a thumb drive. But then today you can also get them all digital. And I'm going to touch on this briefly, but let's talk about BIM. Okay, so how many of you are asking for BIM models at the end of projects? I'll share a couple real quick stories. I was at a conference where I was on a panel, and there were a few folks from a few organizations, some technology companies during construction that were on the panel with me, and I was representing the owner/facility side of the perspective. And they were up there saying, you know, we use BIM models during construction. They were showing the whole process of sequencing. They were showing how they were integrating some drone footage and some other stuff into it. And, you know, the oohs, the ahs, and the crowd, it was great. Okay. Then we had one of the software manufacturers was up there, and he was talking about, you know, we offer this system where it's a fully articulated, you know, BIM model, and this is your closeout at the end of the project, and, you know, this is what you should be asking for. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with anything that they said. But when I got up there, here's what I said. I looked at everybody. I had 150 people in the audience. I looked at every single one of them, and I said, and then I looked back at the other presenters, and I said, here's the challenge of what you just said. The facilities team isn't going to use anything that you just showed. Think about that. The facilities guys and gals in the field are not going to be opening up a BIM model in the field and making any changes in the field. Remember, most facilities teams, half of them are within 10 years of retirement. They're not tech savvy. They are not tech savvy. So if you're asking a guy who's 70 years old, or I'm sorry, 60 years old now he's got to go out there and use a BIM model? Come on. He's not going to do it. He's not going to know what, it's not just that he won't do it. It's he doesn't know how to do it. You're not going to train that guy how to use a BIM model. Well, let's flip that a little bit. BIM models during construction, again, are fantastic. During construction, they are an invaluable tool. You should be asking for that during construction. Okay, but here's the challenge. Who's going to update it? When it's passed to you, who's going to update it? Now, also, how's a BIM model going to help me on a building that's 40 years old? There's a gap there. Most facilities groups have buildings that are new, and they have some that are really old. Okay, really old. The BIM model, again, you're not going to traditionally get, and you're not going to pay to get a BIM model done on a building that's 30, 40 years old. What about historical buildings? There's a gap there. But like I said, when I was at that presentation, I just said there isn't anybody in this room who's going to use, in the facilities group, who's going to use that BIM model on a building that you're going to hand to them. They're not. And every one of them agreed. All of them agreed. That's a disconnect. So again, even getting it digital, if the digital information or the digital format that you're giving them at the end of a project, or you're getting at the end of the project, is such that you can't use it and your team can't use it, and more importantly, that your team can't update it, that's a problem. Because how's that BIM model going to work out for you 6 months after you get it and you've started making some changes? Who's going to update it? Do you have a BIM person on your staff? More than likely not. And can they keep up? The organization I told you about, or I mentioned, it was a hospital group, okay? They've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of renovations that they do every year. Who's going to update all those? Again, it's a gap. So now let's look at mobility, okay? Here's what traditional mobility used to look like. Mobile was, I get my truck, I grab a set of plans, and I go out to the job site, or I go across campus, and that's my mobile. It's under my arm. It's a roll of plans, okay? Yesterday, it was laptops. Everybody's carrying laptops around, or some folks were carrying laptops around. Then you got to worry about, do I have Wi-Fi access? Do I have, do I have privileges to even access that stuff? But now there's mobile apps. Again, think about it. Even, think about in your personal life. How far back, was it when you made the transition to mobile yourself? Everybody now uses a phone. Everybody has a smartphone. Even the ones that are, kicking and screaming and didn't want to have a smartphone, they're probably more tech savvy on their phone than you are now. I mean, it's just the way it goes. You've got to evolve. So some of the requirements for success, we're going to take a look at these. So all content is digital. You need to make sure that all of your information is digital. I'm not talking about just new stuff. I'm talking about all of your stuff. Think about your plan room. Think about your dungeon where you're in the basement, where the scary room where nobody wants to go because, it's just a mess. It should be digital too, because I got news for you, folks. The plans that are in your dungeon or in your plan room are not getting any better year over year. They're getting worse. Think about how faded they are now. You have to capture as much of that stuff as you can. Get it digital. It also should be searchable, okay? Searchable. I'm not talking about just by file name. I'm talking about content within the files. Should be searchable. You have to be able to find this stuff when you need it. Cloud enabled. Okay, the cloud's not scary. Your phone, your tablets, your Wi-Fi at home. Think about, you paid for, I've just got an alert that I went over my allotment for storage on my phone. I hit one button and it was $1.99 and I added like 20 gigs more. $1.99 a month. It's in the cloud. It's backed up. Okay? It has to be in the cloud. You're not always going to be sitting in front of your laptop. You're not always going to be sitting in front of your desktop. Okay? You should be able to roll out of bed. You get a call in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning, and you should be able to grab your phone and access any information on your phone and then be able to share that. Okay? Mobile, on your phone. It's an app. It's got to be simple. Okay, again, we use apps every day. Shareable. Should be able to access that information, but it's only as good as I can share that information out too. Think about your field folks. They're all over the place. They're all over your campus. I should be able to open up a file and text it to somebody or email it to somebody while I'm on my phone. Or think about the last time you got a phone call at 10 o'clock at night when that pipe burst, or you've got something going on wonky and you're 40 minutes from the office. Okay, you can roll out of bed, grab your phone that may or may not be plugged in right next to your bed, pull up that information and share it with either a first responder who's on site, or share it with a guy or gal on your team that's right up the street, or share it with your security guard, whoever. Think about all the events that have happened recently where people just didn't have information, all the active shooter events. Okay, think about all of the flooding, think about all the fires that have impacted us all around the country. Accessing information, so where is that information? How can I get it in the hands of the folks who need it? Okay, so there's many options, many options to get started, but there are a ton available, mobile plan rooms, okay, that might work, might help you out, like SkySite or eBuilder or PlanGrid, where think about your GCs that give you access for a year after the project's done, and now you've got access, now it's gone. Or, there's all kinds of systems out there, but there are also cloud storage solutions like Dropbox or, even Amazon or Google. There's a whole bunch of different ones that are out there that you can do some mobile storage, but there's a facilities mobile app, and I'm gonna give you a higher level, but there's some facility mobile app out there that allow you to do that very thing. We're going to talk about that today, and I'll show you what that could look like. So again, I'm going to share my screen here, but one second. I'm going to share my iPad here. Okay. And Anne, are you able to see my iPad?
Yes, I can, and now it's in focus, yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So, like I was talking about, this is my iPad, but this is the same on my phone, but look at the apps I've got here. Okay, I've got Amazon here. I just bought I'm a Florida State Seminole fan. I just bought a hat on Amazon just the other day. I use Google Maps all the time. Some folks use Waze. I just flew back from Las Vegas from a conference, and I use Netflix. I had some movies on my phone. I flew on Southwest to get home, but I use these apps all the time. I've even got that Team Snap down here for my 11-year-old daughter's soccer team. That's how we communicate with the team. But if you look in the bottom right-hand corner there's an app for my facilities. And let me click on that and let's take a look here. So I go to a campus now, or to a particular location. Here's all of my information for this site. Think about that. I've got all the information on my mobile device, whether it's my phone or my tablet, but this is on me. It's with me right now. So let's take a look at, say I've got some equipment that I want to do a search for, and I want to look for some specific things on equipment. I simply hit the equipment button. Okay. And just like Google, I can do a Google-like search. I want to find, let's say, fire extinguishers in a building. Okay. And let's go Fire EXT, hit search. Okay, there's 512 fire extinguishers here, but say I only want to find the ones in the building 4 and the cafe. Okay, at the bottom here, you can see there's some little tags here. These are shortcuts. Click on building 4. I got down to 128 results. Let's click on cafe, and I'm down to 3. I just narrowed it down for 500 to 3, the 3 that are in the cafe. Let me click on one of them. Here's all the information for that one, including I can click on the location here and it says what building and floor, but I can also go right like this, hit this map. There it is. I just drilled down. Now I even know exactly where it is in my building. So again, it's all the information that I want. I just got to it in just a couple of seconds here. So I can also go in here and say I walk up to a machine that just broke. Okay, in the upper right-hand corner here, there's a little QR code. I'm going to hit that. It's right below the add button there. okay? And I say I walk up to this machine here, and you can see there's a QR code on it right here. Okay, I'm waiting for it to, a little lag there. And here's a QR code. I just scanned it. Looks like there's a little delay here. I'll wait just a second. In our feed here. Okay, there's the QR code. Now here's all the information for this particular machine. You can see I've got maintenance inspection forms here, linked files, parts, useful links, all the information for this particular machine, including photos of what I need to do, okay? Or I can even attach a video to this. So say this machine requires some additional information. I can shoot a video of this and attach it to that QR code. Everybody should be accessing the same stuff. Well, let's go back here. And now I've got an emergency going on in my building, okay? Let's talk about emergencies. I click on the emergency button and I've got something going on in building 4. Press it. Here's all the emergency information for building 4. And say I've got a pipe burst in building 4. What am I going to hit? Shutoffs. To the first floor. Hit there. Here's all the shutoffs are now mapped out. And you can see here in the middle, I've got a water shutoff here. Click on it. There's the shutoff, and click the picture. There's instructions how to shut it off in seconds. Remember we asked, can you access all your information in seconds? I just did. That's how fast you and your team should be able to get access to all the emergency information in your building. But you should also be able to access all of the, think about it from the perspective of, I want to access all of my drawings for the building. So let's go to building 4 again. Let's click on our as-built list view. These are all the projects that have ever happened in this building. Well, let me ask you this though. Which drawings touch the room that you're sitting in right now? You haven't got a clue. There could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drawings that have touched different parts of your building, but which ones touch your room that you're sitting in right now? 9 times out of 10, you're going to call Tom or Bob or Betty because they've been with you for 30 years and they know where everything is in your building. They know what every project was in your building. That's not going to help you when they're all on vacation or they just retired. Let me show you what that can look like. Click on your as-built map view. Go to your first floor. This actually maps out every single drawing set in the building and shows you where they touched in your building. So if I've got something going on in this part of the building down here, I can see here's one, a renovation from 1989, and here's one from 2000. Well, I'm going to start at the newest. Click on it. There's the drawing set for that renovation, and every sheet in the set's linked. Click on it, and it takes me to the individual sheet. That fast. I can find anything in my building in seconds, right here by clicking on buttons. And again, when I say clicking on buttons, I'm pushing. I haven't touched the keyboard one time. I'm using my finger. That's what that should look like. You should be able to access any of your information. In a fire, you've got an earthquake, or a hurricane, or just a pipe burst in your building, for goodness sake. You should be able to pull open your phone, just like I just showed you right here, and access all of that information on my phone in seconds. I'm going to stop sharing my iPad here. And so how do we get started? So here's a self-assessment and also a closeout checklist that will be included in the slide deck that we'll send out to everybody. But these are some base guidelines that I would look at following. So self-assessment questions. You have to look internally at yourself. What are we asking for? What are we requiring at the end of projects? It starts with you. Again, the GC doesn't work for you. The contractors, the architect, they're employed by you to do a particular job, but they're going to give you exactly what you ask for. But then also the closeout checklist. These are the things that you should ask for. This is what I need. This is what I'm getting at the end of the project. Okay, so you want that last 5% of the project budget here, Mr. GC. Here's what you got to give me. Give me the checklist and show me you got everything. So that's the end of what I've got here. And Ann, let's open it up to some questions.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, David, for that presentation, and thanks everyone for sending in questions. A lot of good information there. So we will we'll dive right in. We do have some time for questions. So let's see. The first question, I'll kind of go broadly here because you had just showed a good deal of information that can go into this type of solution that you're showing, and kind of talking about the importance of having that information at your fingertips. So how does my building project information get into an app like this that you just showed? How do you import all that information? For instance, you were just showing some floor plans, to get specific. How does that all get in? And then how are updates made over the life of the building too?
Sure. No, that's great questions. And I really cannot stress this enough. Work with an organization that's done this in the past. Okay. Work with a group, we've done this, but, make sure no matter what group you go with, that you make sure that they've done this in the past. They've got a proven track record that they've done this for a company, that they've been able to transform this. Getting the information in is part of what they should provide. They should provide full scanning services, full linking services, a QC team in the back end that can also make sure everything's aligned where it's supposed to be. But they have to be able to do the job, and they have to have proven that they've done it in the past. But more importantly, those changes, like you mentioned, this can never be static. If this is static, it's no different than the situation you're in right now. You've got a paper plan room, paper static. You've got stuff in a share drive saved out as PDFs. Those are static. Everything should be here so that you have access to it, and it changes and evolves as you change and you have new projects that come up. They all should be just included. And you shouldn't have to do all that legwork yourself. The service should include that.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about, I know you touched on it, but just as far as another question just came in along the same lines, how easy is it, or what is the process to update the app? And I also want to just let you know, someone had asked specifically about the name of the Ark app. So can you just clarify what the Ark offering is, and then whether it's the Ark app or technology like this, how easy is it to update, and what does that what does that entail?
Absolutely, yeah. Ours is called Ark Facilities, and ours is modular based. So you saw I touched on some building drawings. I touched on equipment. I also touched on emergency information. It's modular like that, so you can always add things in. So it's not an all or nothing thing. It's all scalable, of course, based on what your need is. Updates on that for us, it's included. It's a drag and drop. So you get your closeout package at the end. So you follow your checklist that I showed, and you get that information. It's a drag and drop. You literally get the CD, grab the CD, copy it, or you get the thumb drive, plug it into your computer, drag it into a folder. You don't do anything else. Our system ingests it, does all the updates, and the new overlay showing where that new renovation just touched in your building is updated and pushed out to everybody in the field. And you control access levels. So if your team only is going to need to see, 2 buildings, that they can only see 2 buildings. You got some folks that are going to see all the buildings. Great, they can see all the buildings. You control that access level. But it's also equally important that I can also share access out to my subs. If I've got some contracted services like HVAC, where I've got an HVAC organization that comes in and manages my HVAC systems, give them access, give them a seat at the table. But again, make sure they have edit rights too, so they can update stuff too.
Okay, wonderful. So then we have a question that's come in, top of mind for many people, I'm sure, including you, David, and the people at your company, security risks, cybersecurity. Yeah. So sure. Can you talk about, this is the specific question here, and I actually was going to ask you about cybersecurity for my interest, but the specific question here is, with growing network security risks, cyber attacks, etc., higher level federal security organizations aren't receptive to cloud-based apps and mobile devices using Wi-Fi networks, such as tablets, mobile devices. Remember, Facebook and other well-known apps have recently been thought to be secure. This becomes ever more prominent in a nuclear environment with IT security risks. Any suggestions?
Yeah, there are different ways that you can address the security logins to a 2-factor. That's one that comes to mind immediately. It should be redundantly backed up too. So keep in mind, we're not traditionally, in what we're talking about here is construction documents. So facilities and construction documents. Two-factor will help with that. But again, with our system, you've got several different options that you can go with at different security levels and different security requirements, even from the login standpoint. But again, I can't stress this enough too. It's also with the backup. You have to have redundant backup on this stuff too. Our system, we have yet to fail any security audit at all. We've passed everything from hospitals to government. We've never run into any challenges at all.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I want to get back to the kind of the main crux of your presentation here, which was construction project closeout. So I wanted to ask about, you were talking about what the general contractor might give you, and maybe giving information, not giving enough information or the type of information that you need, or a complete picture. So drawing on your experience, can you identify a few of the things that, key things that facilities people should be sure they have in that project closeout, and then perhaps to bring into an app like you've been talking about? But either way, what is some of that information you've seen missing where this type of app might come in handy?
Certainly. The closeout process, we all know it's tough as it is to get everything. I kind of look at the general contractors, they're herding cats at the end of a project anyway. They're trying to get information from the trades. But as you're going through this, if you provide them with that checklist, you'll have a running guide as to what's already came in, and you'll have that information. So having that checklist and providing that directly to the GC will benefit you as well. Let me flip that around just a little bit. Remember where I showed the drawing sets that had the overlays showing where they were all mapped out, showing where they actually touched in the building, okay? Think about it from a project perspective, okay? You're going out for bid on some big projects. Where we found that it's been extremely helpful during the active project process is, imagine if you were able to give the general contractor and your architect access to that entire historical record for your building, showing where all the renovations have ever touched on your building. They never get that. That is gold to them. They never, ever get the entire snapshot of the building. At best, they may get the most recent digital drawings, or they get a set of paper drawings that somebody was able to grab, but it didn't show all the changes that have happened on that building. Now you can give them that entire historical record of your building, so now they've got a better snapshot of what the building sits before they start the project. It could eliminate some of the change orders during the projects too.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. So I'm just going to ask a few kind of nuts and bolts types of questions here in terms of the actual interface. You had talked about phones during the presentation, and then went ahead and I think I'm not sure if you were using a tablet, I think, or your phone, but we did have a question or two. Can you use this on a tablet as well? And I'll take that one step further. I suppose can you also use it on a desktop if that's, if you have kind of a command center? What are the devices you can use this on?
Yeah, ours is brand agnostic. You can use it on any phone, and you can also use it on any browser-based anything too. Ours is an app, but you can also access it from a desktop computer on a browser. So you have several different ways that you can access it that way. But again, it's only as good as the device that's in your pocket. So everybody's got a smartphone. Again, it goes back to why isn't it on their phone? Ours is an app you download. Okay, and again, you still control the user levels, but again, everything can be on their phone and accessed, quickly. That's our system anyway, and that's what we've seen proven in the field is the best option. Is put it in their pockets. Everybody's got it in their pocket.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I think we have time for one last question, and I will let everyone know if we didn't get to your question. David will be able to address those offline if you're interested in getting an answer on those. But David, what I'll ask you about is, we're talking about the capabilities of a technology like this. So let's talk about how it might interface with systems already in place in an organization. Sure. For instance, the question is, how does the Ark app work with CMMS systems, computer maintenance management software that might be in place? How does that interface?
Yeah. So again, we have APIs, so ours can link directly to other systems. They're just API calls from other systems back and forth. Any system you go with should be open. Okay, if you're using a system that doesn't collaborate and communicate with other systems, that's a problem. Think about all the systems you use today. I mean, you mentioned the CMMS. I recently met with another group that uses GIS for some other stuff too. But the problem is you typically do a great job of managing the documents. Okay, they're great for work orders. They're great for asset tracking, some financials and things like that. Even some locations of certain things. But when it comes to the documentation, think about your plans. Remember the stuff I showed earlier? You've got plan rooms. All of that type of information, they just don't do a good job of that. One of my coworkers and I were talking at a presentation last week, and he said, you know, CMMSs and other systems do a really, really good job of telling you when it's time to go fix something. What our system does a really good job of is telling you where it is and how to fix it. Okay. Again, I cannot stress that enough. Think about the photos. Think about the photos I showed with the shutoffs. Okay. It said how to shut it off, or the system's linked to O&M manuals with a detailed reporting of how to do that PM on that particular device. All of that's what we take care of, and it's all tied back to all the information to do their job. So again, it's more of our system where it plugs in more is very much so plugging the gaps where those other systems just don't do a great job. That's not their expertise. We've been the backstory on Ark is we've been printers for decades. The challenge is most folks don't have our institutional knowledge of knowing how to read plan sets. That's not their gig. Ours actually OCRs all the information, so it makes it text-based searchable too. So again, we fit into this really great groove of we plug the gaps where those other systems just don't do a great job of, but we still can communicate with them.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to, I will ask you one last question, because I do want to, this is something on the minds of many constantly, and it's always been a thing in facilities management for sure. In an emergency, we've talked about all this great information at your fingertips and how important that is, as our audience certainly knows. So if you can just kind of close out with letting us know, in an emergency, is the app info accessible online? Is the app accessible? Is the information accessible? What happens in an emergency when there's many cases where this type of information is needed?
Yeah, no, you can. Yes, you have access to the information. Now, some of the functionality, obviously, if you don't have Wi-Fi or you don't have cell service. I mean, I kind of look at it this way, like what happened down in Florida in the Panhandle last year, where the hurricanes came through and wiped out every cell tower. There wasn't power, let alone Wi-Fi. You should be able to access it offline as well. Some of the information, obviously the tools that allow you to interact with that, with the searches and things like that, you still should be able to do some of that information. But accessing the basic information offline, yeah, you should have access. We can.
Okay. So you would be able to have information about your building as far as where things are.
You certainly can.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate that robust presentation. We certainly covered a lot of ground, so thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Okay. And I'd like to thank Ark Document Solutions for sponsoring the webinar, and of course to our audience for your attendance and for all your great questions. Again, if we haven't gotten to your question, David will be able to answer those privately offline with you and help continue the conversation. So a recording of the webinar will also be available online at facilityexecutive.com and on the Ark website, and that's www.e.arc.com/webcast. And of course, please check out that checklist that would be going out in the follow-up email to you all. So thanks again, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.